Amen. For Reverend John Butler.
The atmosphere has already on. My God, you're worthy. You're worthy, worthy, worthy. You are. Oh, worthy. Yeah, It's just 7:30 in the morning. I'm not this early. But Lord, I'll be worthy. This is the day that the Lord has made. We all should rejoice and be glad in it. I was so gracious to get the opportunity to come in this morning because I called at the 12th hour and my brother said to me, the door is open. You don't understand the opportunity when you get the chance. You don't know if it'll be your last time. How it is. You've got to touch every base. We don't just preach and teach to those that show up on Sunday morning. Because the Bible told us to go ye therefore. I'm so happy to have my family. My wife came here, I think about 4 consecutive weeks. I'm sure. And I said, I better get over that before they think they got somebody that's available. She ain't available. It's been 41 great years through everything that God has allowed us to go through. We're going through there just like you're going through here. It's a universal attack. But we have the victory. But we have the victory. But we have the victory. Yeah, we have the victory. Some folk would rather have houses and land. Ooh, some folk choose silver and gold. But these things serve their treasure and forget about their I decided to make him my joy. The word of the Lord, Jeremiah 29:11, I will not be before you long. There is a real word for you and I.
Yes, Lord.
Jeremiah 29:11 says, for I know the plans I have for you. Declares the Lord's plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. Somebody say, and a future. And a future. And I don't care what the enemy might think or believe, and a future. I just want to leave with you for a little while this morning. What God has for me is for me. Tell your neighbor what God has for me is for me. Based on historical context of the verse and the major events that happened in the past, we can understand now why Jeremiah said, we can understand why he said in 29:11 that his goal was to speak to God's people in the midst of hardship and suffering. I don't know a person in this place right now that don't know someone who's either going to a funeral or leaving from a funeral. But the people of God were asking for an immediate rescue. I know some of y'all did that. I know I did. I'm like, God, when is enough enough? They were asking for an immediate rescue from the suffering that they were experiencing, and Jeremiah, with a huge responsibility, he had a huge responsibility to tell them the truth about God's promise. He was also tasked to rebuke a very huge lie that the false prophet Hananiah had circulated, which was not easy to do. Because Hananiah told folk that God was going to move, and he was going to move right now. You know, Pastor Washington Sr. used to stand here and say, y'all got to be the biggest fools if you're going to believe in a name it, claim it. I'm going to name it, claim it, and it's mine type of religion. It doesn't happen that way because everything takes process. Somebody say process. The verse was his message was inspired by God's guidance to tell the people of God in response that it would not be an immediate response, rather than that God has a plan for you to prosper in the midst. Somebody say in the midst of the hardships that I'm going through. God will still allow me and you. Y'all don't hear me. You ain't caught that yet. In the midst. Somebody say in the midst of all that's going on, in the midst, I'm going to have bread. I'm going to have water. I'm going to have roof over my head. I'm going to have overflow in the midst of what's going on. He wanted to remind them to not lose heart. You will have whatever you need. He will supply all of your needs while yet going through, while yet in the midst. These words can be interpreted as a direct message, as an assurance that God knows what you're going through. Say, he knows what I'm going through. He knows what I'm going through. And yet he profoundly states that the plan is for you to prosper and not to harm. You say, not to harm me. His plan is to give us hope and a future. So in other words, if a future is mentioned, that means God has already, in the midst of that, the secret inside of future is time. So I got more time because it's going to take time for future. Future don't just come in and leave. Future is what's already being prophesied, because future what has not happened yet. So you should not lose heart because you're living in the present which is a gift, and then you are promised a future, which is in prophetic spoken word. You didn't need nobody to come here and tell you nothing goes extra, because many of you are already giving up. Daniel and Mark speaks, Luke rather, the 21st chapter, it reminds us that men will lose heart. A lot of people that we're losing right now, we're not even losing because they're sick. We're losing them because they're losing heart. When you sit down here and say, oh Lord, I don't know how I'm going to get through this. As a matter of fact, not I don't know how I'm going to get through it. Many people say, I'm not going to get through it. Do you know the Bible declares that life and death is in the power of the tongue? You have to be careful what you say, because what you say, you will make it come to pass. Am I helping somebody? Be careful what you tell yourself. Be careful what you tell others. But more important, be careful what you seed inside of you. Even when you're going through, get up and say, I'm coming out of this. Did you hear what I said? While you're going through, you got to speak to yourself and say, I'm coming out of this. Oh, my leg is hurt. Oh, but I'm coming out. I'm coming out of this. My arm is hurt. Oh, but I'm coming. My heart is hurt. I'm coming out. I'm coming out. I'm coming out. And don't say it when everybody's around. Say it when you're by yourself and believe it that I'm coming out. I'm coming out. I'm coming out. The devil is a liar. I'm not done yet. The process is not over because the promise has not been granted. Y'all gonna catch it probably when I leave. The first point on all these little few 3 points is that in order to get through, I'm laughing because it's joyful to know that God can do anything, even things that we don't expect. Do you know how we belittle God sometimes when we say, I don't know if I'm going to make this. Do you understand, my brothers and sisters, there are folk that have been through more than what you've been through. And sometimes when you call them with your problem, they laugh at your issue. And some old folk used to tell us, baby, keep on living. Just keep on living. Keep on. And you would be looking at them like, how dare you look at my situation like it's nothing. It's because they have been through that 10 times over. And they've already seen what God can do because he's already done it. The old songwriter says, what he's done for others, are you going to help me? He'll do the same for you. Why? Because it is no secret what God, y'all preaching more than me now. 1-3.10, then we're gone. When facing difficult situations, listen to me closely. We should never be afraid to face the challenge head on. All right. Stop running from stuff that you've already defeated. Stop running from people that you've already defeated. Don't you realize with what God has already done, the idea of you making it through one task, the idea of you making it through one trial, it was to strengthen you and make you strong so that when the task arrives again, it's like your immune system. And really it's not called the immune system, but that's what we believe. It's literally called the lymphatic system. The immune system is just a part of the lymphatic system. And what happens is certain parts of our body is attacked at certain times. And so the system ends up where one point gets clogged up, and then all of a sudden you say, oh Lord, what's going on? My lymph nodes are acting up. Oh, it's not my lymph nodes. No, it's something else that's going on over here. Oh my God. Well, what's really happening is you're being attacked on one level or the other. But then when you learn of certain things that you can take to remove that issue, guess what? You don't worry about that again, right? You say, oh, I know what to do for that. I can instantly take this. Or better yet, I can get up and get some movement in my body. I'm 300 pounds, and I guarantee you I might can outrun most of y'all in here. That's probably able 140. Why? Because you need blood circulation. You need your blood purified. And what's in the blood, you know what we sing about. We say, the blood that Jesus shed for me. And then we say, it will never lose its power. That's the same blood inside of you. So if that blood never loses its power, don't you realize your blood can never lose its power if you really believe? Pastor Washington sung that song, and I had to record it years ago, Only Believe. All things are possible if we only believe. Moving on on here, my second point, we must also be aware that the promise may not be an immediate rescue from the hardship and suffering, but rather the promise of God is in the midst of the plan, in the midst of the process that God has for us, regardless of my current condition. Say that with me, regardless of my current condition, God still will provide. So in the midst of it, be aware that it may not happen today or tomorrow, but in the midst of my condition, God will, because what I've learned about God, because I've gone through so much, is that God don't remove the conditions and the situations, because in actuality, that ain't what God's trying to change. How long is it going to take? God is not trying to change the condition or the situation. God's trying to change you. God's trying to change you. And so when you change, guess what else changed? The condition. As I preach the condition, because the man that you've been with was never good before you got with him. When you decide to leave him, your condition changed. If the woman that you with wasn't you wasn't supposed to be with her, when you walk out, your condition changed. If the job ain't providing what you need and God can provide you a better job, your condition won't change till you leave that job and pivot over into another job. And once you make the change, then God is proven, because he's already given you everything that you need. I oftentimes remind myself that what I need is already on the inside. Say it's on the inside. It's only, I might need a little help, because sometimes I need somebody to play, or I need somebody to help me sing, but I can get it started. You know, they say in the secular world, let's get the party started. They don't ask you to help them sing that, do they? They'll sing it, and then what happens? You'll hear them sing it, and because you're tired of being sit down and broken and beat up, and they start the party, they say, let's get the party started, and then you jump right on in with it. Then everybody doing this here, and ain't nobody had no victory and nothing, ain't nothing else to you, just dancing. There's a second line coming down the street, you sitting on your porch, all of a sudden, you go, and now when you look up, you done walk 25 miles and ain't got no ride back home. But the condition will change, because when you make that 25-mile walk back to the house, you have lost 22 pounds and your heart is pumping like it should, because now you have changed the condition. And ain't no band playing, because they broke up and they looking for rides. Matter of fact, if you get on a streetcar, you'll see 3 or 4 trombone players sitting right next to you. So they had no ride home either. They made their $45 or $175, put that in their pocket, got on that streetcar with you. Everybody riding back home talking about how good the second line was. But the blood is running warm in your vein, and you feel much better. Matter of fact, you feel much lighter, because you done got your vitamin D3 from the sunlight, which is what you should have gotten before. But before the second line, you sitting in the house looking at TV all day. Mad because they done skipped the next episode you was expecting, which you really shouldn't have been looking at because you done seen them all 35 times. Matter of fact, you know the script better than they know the script. And yet you're asking God to give you strength. Why are you asking God to give you strength if you ain't going to ever get up off the couch? Why are you asking God to give you strength that the only time you stand up is to cook some more red beans and fat back and pickle meat and pork sausages and smoked sausages, and then you're going to go right back after you? All you need strength for is to stir the pot. And I ain't talking about the food because it's good. But then after you cook the food, you go back down with a platter of red beans and rice, potato salad with all the dairy products, and then you go sit back down on the sofa and you say, oh my God, I don't feel good at all. Lord, I don't know what happened, boy. But you know what? And your buddy's sitting there with you, everybody foot 50, and both of y'all sitting there, but that was some good cooking, boy. You threw down, boy, you threw down. And then y'all pastor and say, Pastor, I'm back in the ICU because they say something about my diabetes. It ain't acting right, and I don't understand why my diabetes done already arrived in heaven and it's waiting on me to arrive because it's there waiting because they see it was at 200, and I don't understand why it's at 200, Pastor. I'm walking right. You know I'm a child of God. You heard the prayer that I prayed. You felt the anointing in my body. You know I talked to God, and you heard the note I hit. That thing went up to heaven, but then when I sat down, I couldn't get back up because I felt like my head was light. But you know why my head was light, Pastor? Because that wasn't nothing but the glory of God shining upon me. And back in the day when we were faint, and I was a little child, all the old folk were faint because of diabetes and high blood pressure. And then they would give them smelling salts to bring them back to life. Because they said, no, he was caught up in the spirit. No, he was caught up in bad health and some other conditions, and the stress got to him, and that's what went to the blood rushing to the head, and you already got a blockage of insulin going on. That's why dementia set in. Dementia ain't nothing but a blockage of insulin getting to the brain, and it's because we're eating the wrong oils. And if they would have told us that when we were children, we would be in better shape. We would have our lives in order, and God can move even quicker than what we expected. Then we could rejoice because God moved inside of us. Thirdly, and I'm going home because I think I've done what I needed to do, Pastor. Thirdly, trust God for the better outcome. Position yourself in a posture of already being victorious. Did you hear what I said? Position yourself in the posture. When I see you, I shouldn't see you like this here. I should see you like this here. Looking up to the hills from whence cometh your help. Because all your help comes from the Lord. Philippians 4:4 tells us to rejoice in the Lord always. And always. Again, I say, rejoice. May the peace of God and the peace of his holy communion and spirit of God rest, rule, and abide with you henceforth and forever. I hope I have seeded into you what you need to bring out some good root that will fall upon solid ground, and that you will be able to help somebody else to get where you're trying to go, and everybody can get there together on one accord. God bless you. God keep you. See you next time.
What a mighty word, amen? Amen. Come on, give the Lord a hand clap of praise one more time. It's worthy to be praised. Thank you, Reverend Butler, for such a powerful word. Amen, amen. And I'm going to do my best to get off that couch.